anytime you talk about economics, you're talking about something about someone's life. And that's one of the reasons why I just think economics is behind all things in the world, whether they be politics, whether it be how to build a building, or how to build a highway, or where to put the highway. It's all government decisions and people and just us as little human beings on this earth moving around, making decisions. And behind it all, economics. Now, my 2 years in the Peace Corps changed my life forever. It was an opportunity for me to spend 2 years in a community of 130 people in the middle of the Dominican Republic, around a bunch of people that hadn't had the opportunity to go to school. It changed everything in the way in which I think. A lot of that came from being uncomfortable culturally, being uncomfortable linguistically, uncomfortably physically, spiritually, energetically. From that discomfort came a lot of clarity. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, in the small suburb outside of Cleveland, and I spent the first 18 years of my life there. Then I moved on to Duke University, where I studied public policy and history. And from there, I went to the Peace Corps. I was sent to the Dominican Republic, where I lived in a rural village and then worked on a rural aqueduct, bringing water to 130 people for the first time. And after my Peace Corps experience, I began teaching, first at the Atlanta Girls School in Atlanta in the United States. Then I began my international career at the American School of Nicaragua in Managua, Nicaragua. And then I moved on to Santiago, Chile, where I spent 12 years teaching in the IB systems as an IB economics teacher. Now where my educational path has taken me is to this role that I actually never really anticipated, of being able to have a reach where I can impact the education of thousands of students around the world, and I can impact the teaching philosophies and the teaching practices of hundreds, if not thousands, of teachers around the world, and to have an opportunity to share some of the things that I've done in my path with people who are moving into it now. It just is something that has really been some of the most fulfilling work I've done as an educator. The most difficult thing about learning IB economics is that you have to do two things at one time. The first thing is you have to learn the content. And the second thing is you need to develop the skills in order to be successful on the IB exams that are at the end of the 2-year run through the course. Learning the content can be one thing, but the way in which the IB asks you to perform on these external exams forces students and teachers to focus on the skills. Really what we do, we teach skills.
A close friend and colleague. I've known Brad for more than 12 years now, and professionally what I admire about him most is his ability to take complex systems and kind of murky structures and basically simplify the whole process, make things logical, easy to follow, straightforward, all with the goal of helping teachers teach and students learn.
Working with Brad, it was really great because he was able to help me understand sort of specifically like what it was my students needed to be able to do in their own writing, and what kinds of things were really going to allow them to be as successful as possible in the course in a way that was sort of beyond what the IB trainings do.
The bottom line is that Brad cares, and he's willing to generously share his learned experiences. He cares deeply about the IB and what it attempts to instill in students, and it's obvious that he believes in success for all.
One of the things that just sort of happens in my mind as a teacher is as I'm trying to figure out complex lessons to teach, especially in IB economics, my mind just starts trying to figure out how to take these complex things and find a baseline, simple way of explaining it. And actually what I'm doing is I'm doing it for myself because I want to go out there and teach things in a way that students can understand it. And so one of the complexities of teaching IB economics, which is why I've created all of these courses, is how to take these abstract ideas of human behavior and then how to have students perform at a level where it's actually concrete and sequential.
Something that I had trouble with going into DP Econ was differentiating all the concepts from each other and just understanding what each individual concept meant. Brad really helped me to understand the meaning and just like the value of each of these concepts by giving us meaningful examples that were memorable and easy to pull up into mind when we're taking a test.
My favorite thing is just the amount of videos that he produces. He produces so many.
He uses a lot of analogies that really helped us get through the units with different examples, and I think this really helped all of the students because we got to see how this applies to like real world economic issues.
The school subscription was a game changer just for learning, studying, and for my overall success in the class. One of the biggest things Brad did for me was teaching me how to break down complex concepts into simple and logical explanations.
I think that if I wouldn't have those videos, I wouldn't have been able to do such a good work on the IB exams.
He was just more than a teacher, and the way he taught the class with such enthusiasm, that changed the entire game.
I wanted to create a hub of information and resources for students and teachers in the IB program. So on the website, you'll see there are courses, there are educational trainings and workshops, there are memberships for schools and for teachers, and then there's a series of global events. Whether you're an IB student, you're an IB teacher, you're an IB coordinator, you're a high school principal, you're an extended essay coordinator, a theory of knowledge teacher, you will find resources that are designed around giving you practical strategies to perform your role better. Because when you think about all of the roles that we have in an IB school, the IB always tells us what to do, and we always know how it's going to be assessed. But the trick for all of us is to try to figure out how to fill that gap between what the IB expects us to do and how to actually do it inside an IB school.
I found Brad's course online, signed up, and almost immediately found that working with Brad was a true pleasure.
We still use his website with all sorts of resources to this day.
Working with Brad the last couple of years has really elevated my craft. Brad is so practical and so student-centered in the way he approaches things. He's become a real valuable resource for me in terms of making me a better teacher.
Brad really knows what he's talking about, and he's an excellent communicator, and so people really felt like this was worthwhile.
Very flexible, very willing to work with us and help us meet our needs. And it was super, super helpful. I can't talk enough about how great Brad is. Not only for teachers, but also I'm finding that many of my students are also utilizing his online resources.
It is an honor to have over 25,000 enrollments in my online courses and to have had the opportunity to work with hundreds of colleagues around the world. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining me on this journey.